request for funding. Every year in my annual report, I've indicated that the door opening control panel is in need of replacement. Occasionally we have circuits or relays that go out on that, and they're more and more difficult to find those. Plus there has been shorts in it where we've had small electrical problems with smoke, and so it's been an ongoing project with it. Just to clarify, on the front page of my request, the door opening system itself is the $152,600. The next 4 items there are an upgrade, an addition, adding and upgrading some of the camera system throughout the digital recording system throughout the jail, and the entire building, actually top to bottom. And then the $10,000 request there is for cabinet renovation, and I've only got one quote on that so far, and it's less than $10,000. I think it was about $8,600, but I've added a little extra in there just to cover anything that's unforeseen, anything that was overlooked on that. In regard to the 4 quotes on the video recordings, the top one, the estimate 584, is for $5,389. Our system is at capacity now as far as adding cameras, and I believe the other 3 quotes are asking are for about 9 or 10 or 12 additional cameras. We don't have the capacity on the current recording system that we have, so the very first quote there is to add a new DVR, the recording computer, and a monitor. So without that, the rest of it won't work. The door opening system, we got quotes from 4 different companies. If you look through those, we had one that was extremely high, at least we thought that it was, and then we had one that was the lowest one was a company that we really didn't have a whole lot of faith in after we talked with them. Had Chuck Vogley go through all 4 quotes and try to massage them into a apples to apples comparison. He contacted all 4 of the companies numerous times to get everything as close to being the same as what we could get them. The 2 middle companies, one was Stanley, and then the other one was SAS. SAS is the company that we decided on several years ago. Stanley was operated by 2 or 3 different guys. One of the operators of Stanley broke off onto his own and started SAS. So their information, their quotes was very, very similar, but in reading through those, SAS was a little more specific. Their service and follow-up fees was considerably less than Stanley's. And then 2 weeks ago at the sheriff's conference, I talked with the sheriff that installed this very, very similar system in his jail. At that time, he hired Stanley to do it, but the young man that went off onto his own and started SAS was the project manager at that time, and he said that it was a very, very smooth operation. They actually set the whole system up in their office. The sheriff and his jail commander was able to go to the office, look at the system as it was, make corrections and changes in it there, and he said then they came back and he was at their jail, the entire project, and oversaw the entire thing. And it went very, very smoothly. Their control board, although they got a smaller jail than what we do, their control board, which is what we're replacing, was only down for 1 day. They were able to change it off that quick. So the total request is $176,139.
Mark, I can see in the future where we're probably going to have to add on to that jail. With this system can it be added to accommodate a larger jury?
You'd have to ask Chuck that.
Yeah, they can expand that system. It's just like anything else, it's gonna be computer operated. So, they can expand this system. There are abilities to do that. The only thing you might have to do is just like the video system, you may have to add a computer to do a specific job, but, yes, it is expandable.
Mark, during my work with different vendors, I know that sometimes it made more sense to go with more than one vendor than just one vendor on a certain project. For example, Reese Security and EF Roads. Have you considered that at all here, to maybe take the best of more than one vendor, or are you looking for just one vendor to do?
I don't think you're gonna be able to do that for the simple fact that the software that operates the doors, it's not proprietary software, but it's software that's specific to your, jail. So basically, it has to be hand fitted to your jail, all right? If you get too many vendors in it, they do too many different things. If you look at those quotes in there, one of the issues with Stanley was that they didn't know whether whether we had a 24-volt intercom system or not. To SAS, that wasn't a problem. So they've got two different facets and two different ways they do this, and that's all off of a specific program that they write on the computers to do it with. And if you just aren't going to be, it would be just a disaster to try to mingle them. You would end up paying twice as much.
I know in all some instances it doesn't work, but I thought maybe here it might.
Yeah, I guess I look at these four as being all competitors against one another, as opposed to being able to work piggyback like what you're saying. The one thing about SAS is they also will bring in a lock professional, whereas the other three companies did not do that. They were all going to look at the locks themselves, but SAS is bringing in, and this individual has been at the jail to look it over. And that is his profession, is jail locks. So he'll be the one going through everything to make sure that the locks are all in proper shape at the time, so that when we're done, everything is up to where it needs to be.
Well, you three or four gentlemen are the ones that are gonna have to work with this, and you're the ones that gotta be satisfied.
Correct. And that's why it's taken so long. I've been working on this most of this year, actually, to get all four companies in, and then for Chuck to work with them to get their quotes and their terminology as close as what we possibly could. The other issue with this is someday it's got to happen, and I would prefer that we fix it before it goes up, and then we're going back to this, starting over again and getting quotes and things of that nature. This project, according to SAS, is still a 6 to 8 month project once I call them and tell them we're ready to go. So we're not close to fixing the thing tomorrow after, whenever it is we decide to go with it. The other thing is the cabinet renovation. I needed to expand on that just a little bit. The current panel that's in there was built on a beveled cabinet top, countertop. That was for ease of operation, being able to see it and operate it. That countertop has to come out because we're basically going to be setting computer monitors, and I think maybe even the towers from the computers themselves up on a level surface. And we've got the main one in the control room. Then there's two small ones back in each one of the pods that are adjacent to each cell blocks.
Mark, backing up there where you said that this is a 6 or 8 month project, when are I presume there's gotta have some money up front or a little, how do you handle this budget-wise then?
Did they ask for anything up front?
No, I don't believe, I think.
They're surely not gonna wait till 6 or 8 months for the full amount, are they?
Now, I don't know if anybody specifically stated that. I believe the one on there, if you go with SAS, I believe their terms, can I see yours? SAS quote. I believe they stated in the back of theirs that project delivery and ownership responsibility, 6 to 8 months. And I don't remember. Payment terms are net 30 days. So I took that as 30 days after the installation.
I would be surprised if they didn't want something up front. But
Right.
that's why I was curious about the budget deal. How do you recommend we handle this?
Well, probably they single you a bill for what they've done on a periodic basis. They
On a
expect
30-day
that 30
basis?
days.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's gotta go over the first of the year, you know, in a different budget year.
It says on the payment terms on the quote that it'll be progressively billed. So in other words, if they do so
Right.
much work, then they're gonna bill out.
They
And
will
you'll have
bill.
30 days to remit. No retainage is necessary.
Which is understandable, because the way it
Yeah.
was explained to me, or the way I read it in there, number one, they gotta order, if you will, the equipment, get it, and then they've gotta assemble it and put it together the way that it's gonna end up being, and then come and do the I guess basically the labor of each one of the doors and, any cables that's gotta be pulled throughout the building, and then finally removing the old boards and putting in the new system.
So are these firm bids or just
Yeah, I'm
approximate?
only good for it.
Domestic,
The only thing, the only thing you can put in there is that, they don't want you to have they don't want a contingency fund that you pay them. But just like any other project, any construction project, you know, you can figure maybe there'll be some overages. He said, when I spoke with him about it, I said, how close is this? He says, I don't think you'll have to worry about anything unless there's really some big unforeseen problem. SAS, the one thing they did was, they were specific on, like the Stanley with the intercom system. They couldn't tell me whether, well, we don't know. I said, well, can't you look at it and tell us? Well, we just don't know until we get into it. Well, that's a pretty big, I don't know. Same thing with the cabinetry on Stanley. Stanley says, you know, if your cabinetry doesn't match what we need, then we need to put in our cabinetry and whatever it takes. Well, that's a pretty big open-end thing too. SAS has specific, you know, they've written it down exactly what you're gonna get, how it's gonna work, and they haven't left any open ends, or we've tied up as many of the open ends as we can. So I believe that, you know, we're not gonna be, it's gonna be anything, like I said, any construction project, there's a possibility it could go 1%, 2%, I don't know. But, I would guess, from what I've talked to him, he wants to be accurate. He wants to be right, so. This is like the door locks. My big question with everybody was the door locks. I said, okay, we spend all this money on this computer and all this sort of stuff. Now we have door lock problems. Well, that's when the SAS, he brought in his door lock, the people that manufactures the door locks, he brought the guy in. They looked at the locks and he put $1,000 in his bid, and he's gonna go through all the locks in there and make sure that the locks are okay, because there's not that much to those. They're relatively easy to maintain, but there are things that wear out on them. So he's gonna go through every one of the locks and put $1,000 in there, and then if there are locks that have to be replaced, they just can't fix them, and it's over the $1,000, he's quoted us $100 per lock set to replace them, which no one else could do. And that was one of the other good things about SAS. I mean, so when it's done, what I was trying to shoot for was that when it's done, it's done. I mean, we've got everything we need. It's gonna last for another, you know, substantial period of time. Plus, what SAS does, the other one thing we were worried, or I was worried about anyway, was that you know, if we lose the computer, what happens? Now are we dead in the water? Well, what they do is they've got us a computer set up, and this provides us with a spare computer on the master control, that if that computer goes down, you slip this one in, you plug it in, and you go. And then you send the other one back for whatever repairs you need. And SAS on their repairs are substantially like $100 an hour cheaper than Stanley is. Stanley is just outrageous on their customer support.
So it comes with a backup system.
Yes, it comes with a backup system.
What if we were to lose
They're everything's battery backup.
Okay.
Yep, with surge protectors on it. So in other words, the batteries would only have to last as long as the generator would kick on. If the generator fails, then, you know, that's a different situation, but the battery backups would run it for a period of time. Give you enough time to figure out a contingency plan anyhow. So,
We're in a worse situation now. We don't have a battery backup on our panel. So if the generator goes down, then we're out completely.
How old is the system you guys are dealing with now?
It's the original to the building.
25.
25 years.
25 years.
Mark, you said something about putting some equipment in the pods as far as the computers or whatever for the lock system. Now, do you guys, do you man the pods now?
We don't, not on a 24/7 basis. We have confinement officers that will go back there when they're available to monitor, but that's one of the things that the DOC says every year, that we're staff shortage of not having enough people for that, for 24/7 coverage.
So is this gonna require more man hours?
No, no, no. Just what we're doing, in the pods, we have a small control panel that opens just the individual cell doors in the cell blocks themselves. They don't operate the entire system, so what happens when the guards make their rounds, when the doors need to be popped, you go into or opened up, one of the officers will go into the pod, and he's able to open up the doors from there rather than from up in the control room.
Is training included on this?
Yes,
So all of our confinement officers will be trained?
yes.
And those pods won't be replacing this system, right?
Yes, much smaller scale than what we're having up front, but essentially it's the same, but less doors.
Don, do you know, was this in the 2011 CETA plan?
No, sir.
But this could definitely qualify for QMCAP, this equipment.
Oh, yeah.
One of your other phases in there is your digital upgrades on it as far as your camera system. Could you explain that a little bit? That's through Digital Vigil Solutions.
Yes, that's the company that put in the video recording system in 2007. No matter how many you put in, we find that there's a blind spot someplace, or we find a location where a camera and or a microphone would be helpful at eliminating problems or solving problems. And that's what we're looking at there. I think we're adding some cameras in the cell blocks themselves. When the jail was built, there was 2 cameras in each cell block, and they kind of crossed one another. We replaced those with the new ones. However, there's still blind spots in several of the cell blocks. Down in the basement, back in the storage area, there's never been any security back there in regard to the camera system. We're going to put one back there. We're going to add a microphone over the window at the probation office, adding a camera and I believe a microphone out in the lobby, particularly a camera over the kiosk system we have out there. I know Sean has, and the representative from Telmate, we've had some complaints that people have put their money in and it didn't show up on the books. And they've always got that resolved so far, but a camera on that would help determine whether somebody actually put money into it or not. So it's various places, just again to help maintain safety and security. There's no way of measuring the number of lawsuits that we've prevented with the camera system that we got in there now. Some of the problems that we've solved, lots of problems. If we would have started marking those down on a piece of paper, recording those one at a time, I think we'd have a book full of the problems that we've solved with the video and the audio combined. So it's done us a lot of good.
How many prices did you get for the digital video equipment?
Just from DVS, because they're the ones that installed the system originally. That was one of the companies wanted to completely eliminate that and put in their own, and